You've been lied to your entire life. You've been told that if you work hard, you'll be successful. If you put in the hours, if you sacrifice, if you hustle, the money will come. Your parents told you this. Your teachers repeated it. Society reinforces it every single day. And it's complete nonsense. Right now, there are millions of people working harder than you've ever worked. They wake up before dawn. They labor until their bodies ache. They sacrifice time with their families, their health, their happiness, and they're broke. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack discipline, but because they've fallen for the biggest lie in modern society, the lie that hard work equals wealth. Meanwhile, there are people who work less, stress less, and somehow accumulate more wealth in a year than those hard-working folks will see in a lifetime. What do they know that you don't? What are they doing differently? And more importantly, how can you shift from exhausting yourself with endless effort to actually building real, lasting wealth? That's what we're going to uncover today. The uncomfortable truth about why most people work themselves to death and die broke. And more importantly, what you can do about it starting right now. Here's the reality nobody wants to admit. Hard work is everywhere. Walk through any city, any town, any neighborhood, and you'll see it. The construction worker under the scorching sun. The nurse working double shifts. The single parent juggling 3 jobs. These people are working harder than most millionaires ever will, yet they're not wealthy. Some of them are barely surviving. Now contrast that with the person who owns the construction company, the person who built a system that employs nurses, the entrepreneur who created a business that runs without them being there every minute. These people often work fewer physical hours. They might not break a sweat, yet their bank accounts tell a completely different story. The difference isn't effort. It's not work ethic. It's not even opportunity, though that plays a role. The fundamental difference is this. One group is working hard. The other group is working smart. One group is expending energy. The other group is directing energy. One group is busy. The other group is productive. And here's the part that should terrify you. You can spend your entire life in the first group, working harder than anyone around you, and still end up with nothing to show for it. Because the brutal, uncomfortable truth is this. Hard work alone is one of the most overrated concepts in modern society. Without direction, without strategy, without intelligent planning, hard work is just organized suffering that produces minimal results. Let me be clear about something before we go further. I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Every wealthy person I've ever studied worked hard at some point. But they worked hard on the right things, in the right way, with the right strategy. They didn't just work hard. They worked smart. They worked with purpose. They worked with a plan that extended beyond the next paycheck. Most people, they're working hard on all the wrong things. They're busy, exhausted, stressed, and going nowhere. They're like someone rowing a boat with incredible effort, but no compass, no destination, just endless motion that leads nowhere meaningful. And after 20, 30, 40 years of this exhausting journey, they look around and realize they're still broke, still dependent, still trapped. Why does this happen? How does someone dedicate their entire life to work and end up with nothing? That's the question we're going to answer. And the answer is going to challenge everything you think you know about success, wealth, and what it actually takes to build financial freedom. The principle we're exploring today is simple but profound. Wealth is not created by hard work alone. Wealth is created by directed effort, intelligent planning, and disciplined thinking. Most people remain poor not because they don't work hard enough, but because their effort is unfocused, their planning is non-existent, and their thinking is reactive rather than strategic. Think about this carefully. If hard work alone created wealth, every manual labor would be a millionaire. Every person working 60-hour weeks would be financially free. Every exhausted parent juggling multiple jobs would be wealthy. But they're not. The hardest working people in society are often the poorest. That paradox should tell you something important. The equation isn't just about effort. There's something else, something more fundamental, That separates those who build wealth from those who simply survive. Let me tell you about Robert. 25 years ago, Robert graduated high school and immediately got a job at a manufacturing plant. Good job. Union benefits. Decent pay. Robert was proud. He showed up every single day. Never called in sick. Worked overtime whenever it was offered. He was known as one of the hardest workers in the entire facility. Robert worked 10, sometimes 12-hour days. He'd come home exhausted, eat dinner, watch a little television, and collapse into bed. Then wake up and do it all over again. For 25 years. He sacrificed weekends. He missed his kids' events. He put the job first because he believed that's what you're supposed to do. Work hard, be reliable, and you'll be rewarded. Today, Robert is 50 years old. He's still working at that same plant. His body is breaking down from decades of physical labor. His back hurts constantly. His knees are shot, and his bank account. He has about $15,000 saved. No investments. No retirement plan beyond hoping Social Security will be enough. One unexpected medical bill or car breakdown away from financial disaster. Robert worked harder than most people will ever work in their entire lives. And he has almost nothing to show for it. Why? Because Robert confused activity with accomplishment. He confused being busy with being productive. He confused trading time for money with building wealth. Robert worked hard his entire life, but he never worked smart. He never planned. He never thought strategically about how to multiply his efforts, rather than just add more hours. Now let me tell you about Jennifer. Jennifer started working around the same time as Robert. She got a job as an administrative assistant at a small real estate office. The pay wasn't great, about $30,000 a year. But Jennifer did something Robert never did. She paid attention, she observed. She thought strategically about her situation. Jennifer noticed that the real estate agents she worked for were making significantly more money than she was. She asked herself why. What were they doing that she wasn't? She realized they weren't working harder. Some of them worked less than she did. But they were earning commissions. They were building relationships. They were creating transactions that paid them multiples of what an hourly wage could provide. So Jennifer got her real estate license. She continued working her admin job, but started selling homes on weekends. Her first year, she sold 2 homes, not impressive. But she learned. She studied. She improved her sales process. By year 3, she was selling 1 home per month and quit her admin job. But here's where Jennifer really separated herself. While Robert was focused solely on working more hours, Jennifer was focused on leverage. She realized that her time was limited. There were only so many homes she could sell personally. So she started recruiting other agents to work under her. She built a team. Then she opened her own brokerage. Today, 25 years later, Jennifer oversees 40 agents. She makes money on every transaction her team closes. She works about 20 hours per week, mostly strategic planning and relationship building. Her net worth is over $3 million. She has rental properties generating passive income. She has investments. She has options. Same time frame, same starting point roughly, but completely different outcomes. Why? Jennifer didn't work harder than Robert. In fact, by hours logged, Robert probably worked more. The difference was direction, strategy, planning. Jennifer thought about her work differently. She asked different questions. She focused on creating systems and leverage rather than just trading time for money. This is the pattern you'll see everywhere once you know to look for it. The people who build wealth don't necessarily work the hardest. They work the smartest. They direct their effort toward activities that multiply results rather than just add to them. They think long term. They plan deliberately. And they understand something most people never grasp. Your time is your most valuable asset. Once it's spent, you can never get it back. If you're simply trading time for money, hour for hour, dollar for dollar, you've placed an absolute ceiling on your earning potential. There are only so many hours in a day, only so many days you can work before your body or mind gives out. Trading time for money is a losing game. It guarantees limitation. Wealth is built through leverage, through creating value that isn't directly tied to the hours you personally work. through systems, investments, ownership, and strategic positioning. Robert traded his time. Jennifer leveraged hers. Robert worked for money. Jennifer made money work for her. Robert was busy. Jennifer was productive. Let's break down exactly why most hard-working people never get rich. Understanding these principles isn't just interesting. It's essential if you want to escape the trap that's captured millions of dedicated, disciplined people who somehow end up broke despite their best efforts. The first reason is this: effort without direction produces exhaustion, not results. Most people are working incredibly hard, but they're working without a clear destination. They wake up, respond to whatever demands the day throws at them, handle crisis after crisis, and collapse at the end feeling busy but not accomplished. They're running on a treadmill. Lots of motion, lots of effort. Zero progress. Think about a ship with a powerful engine, but no rudder. It can go fast, burn fuel efficiently, work perfectly. But if there's no direction, no navigation, it's just wandering. That's most people's work lives. Tremendous effort. No clear direction. They're working hard at their job, but they've never stopped to ask if that job is taking them where they actually want to go. Wealthy people are different. They start with the destination. Where do I want to be in 5 years? 10 years? What does financial freedom look like for me? Then they work backward. What would I need to do to get there? What skills would I need? What investments? What businesses? What relationships? Every action is measured against whether it moves them closer to that destination. Most people never do this exercise. They just work. Whatever job they have, they do it. Whatever tasks are assigned, they complete them. They're reactive instead of proactive, responsive instead of strategic. And year after year passes with incredible effort, but minimal progress toward any meaningful goal. The second reason people work hard but stay poor is that trading time for money fundamentally limits wealth creation. This is the trap most people never escape. You get a job. You exchange hours of your life for dollars. The more hours you work, the more dollars you get. Seems logical, seems fair, but it's a cage. Because there's a hard limit to this equation. You can't work more than 24 hours in a day. You can't sustain 80-hour work weeks indefinitely without destroying your health. And even if you could, even if you worked every possible hour at a high hourly rate, you'd still cap out. You'd hit a ceiling determined by the number of hours you can physically work. Wealthy people understand leverage. They understand that real wealth comes from multiplying results, not adding hours. They build systems that work without them. They invest in assets that appreciate. They create intellectual property that pays them repeatedly. They hire people to multiply their efforts. They understand that you can't trade time for enough money to become truly wealthy. You have to create value that scales beyond your personal time investment. This is why business owners, investors, and entrepreneurs dominate wealth statistics. Not because they work harder. Often they don't. But because their wealth isn't tied to their personal hours worked. The business operates and generates profit, whether they're there or not. The investments grow while they sleep. The systems multiply their efforts. The third reason is perhaps the most uncomfortable. Thinking deliberately is harder than working physically, so most people avoid it. It's actually easier to work a 12-hour shift than to sit down for 2 hours and think strategically about your life and finances. Physical work is straightforward. Show up. Do the tasks. Get paid. It's clear. It's measurable. It doesn't require you to confront uncomfortable questions about whether you're on the right path. Strategic thinking is hard. It requires you to be honest about your situation, to admit what's not working, to face your fears about change, to educate yourself on topics you don't understand, to make decisions with incomplete information, to take responsibility for outcomes. Most people will do almost anything to avoid this kind of difficult mental work, so they stay busy. Busy is comfortable. Busy feels productive. Busy allows you to avoid the hard questions. If you're always rushing to the next task, always responding to the next demand, always exhausted from the day's efforts, you never have to stop and ask yourself the truly difficult questions. Am I building anything? Is this leading anywhere? What am I actually creating with all this effort? Wealthy people do the hard thinking. They schedule time for it. They treat strategic thinking as their most important work. They read. They analyze. They plan. They make decisions deliberately rather than reactively. And because they do this difficult mental work, their physical work becomes more effective. Every hour they work produces better results because it's guided by clear thinking and strategy. The fourth reason is that long-term planning separates the wealthy from the overworked. Most people are trapped in short-term thinking. They're focused on this week's paycheck, this month's bills, getting through this quarter. They're in survival mode, constantly reacting to immediate needs and never lifting their heads to see the bigger picture. Wealthy people think in decades. They make decisions today that won't pay off for 5 or 10 years. They sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term gain. They invest in education that takes years to yield results. They build businesses that lose money initially but create massive value later. They buy assets that appreciate slowly over time. This long-term orientation changes everything. It means you're willing to delay gratification. It means you're building foundations rather than just collecting paychecks. It means you're creating something that compounds over time rather than something that resets to zero every pay period. Most people never develop this long-term view. They're too busy surviving, too focused on immediate needs, too trapped in the present to invest in the future. And year after year passes until suddenly they're 50, 60 years old and realize they built nothing they earned. They spent. But they never accumulated, they never invested, they never built. The fifth reason, and this might be the most important, is that wealth is a byproduct of value creation, not effort alone. You don't get paid for how hard you work. You get paid for the value you create. This is a crucial distinction that most people miss. You can work incredibly hard doing something that creates minimal value, and you'll be paid minimally. You can work moderately hard doing something that creates tremendous value, and you'll be paid extremely well. The effort isn't what matters. The value is what matters. Think about a ditch digger versus a software developer. The ditch digger might work harder physically, more sweat, more physical exertion, more exhaustion, but the software developer creates more value, code that can be replicated infinitely, solutions that scale, products that impact millions. So the software developer gets paid more, not because they work harder, but because they create more value. Most people focus on effort. How many hours did I work? How hard did I push myself? But the market doesn't care about your effort. It cares about your results. It cares about the value you created. You can work yourself to exhaustion creating minimal value, and you'll be rewarded minimally. Or you can work strategically, creating massive value, and be rewarded abundantly. Wealthy people are obsessed with value creation. They constantly ask, how can I create more value? How can I solve bigger problems? How can I serve more people? How can I multiply my impact? They understand that wealth flows to those who create value. And the more value you create, the more wealth flows to you. Now here's something that ties all of this together. Something that might shift your entire perspective. The reason most people work hard but never get rich isn't because they're doing something wrong. It's because they're playing the wrong game entirely. They're playing the employee game. Show up, work hard, get paid. Repeat. It's a game designed to provide stability and steady income. But it's not designed to create wealth. The rules of the employee game make wealth nearly impossible. You trade time for money. You're capped by hours. You have minimal leverage. You build someone else's dream. Wealthy people are playing a different game. The ownership game, the leverage game, the value creation game. Same effort, often less, but directed completely differently. Instead of trading time for money, they're building assets. Instead of working in a business, they're working on a business. Instead of being paid for hours, they're paid for results. This isn't about one game being better or worse morally. It's about understanding which game creates the outcome you want. If you want stability and steady paychecks, the employee game works fine. If you want wealth, you need to play a different game with different rules. Most people never realize there are different games. They think work is work. Job is job. They never question the fundamental structure. They just try to get better at the game they're playing without realizing it's the wrong game for their goals. So what do you do with this information? How do you shift from working hard and staying broke to working smart and building wealth? Let's get specific. Let's get practical. Here's exactly how to break free from the hard work trap and start building real wealth. First, you need to honestly assess whether your current work is creating long-term value or just producing business. Sit down with a piece of paper. Write down how you spent your time last week, every major activity, every project, every task. Now ask yourself for each item, did this create lasting value or was it just activity? Did it build something or just maintain something? Did it move me closer to my goals or just keep me busy? This exercise is uncomfortable. Most people realize that 70, 80, sometimes 90% of their effort is pure activity. Maintenance, responding to demands. Very little is actually building anything lasting. Very little is creating value that compounds. They're on that treadmill, working hard, going nowhere. Once you see this clearly, you can start making different choices. You can start protecting time for high-value activities. You can start saying no to busy work. You can start focusing your effort on things that actually build towards something rather than just filling time. Second, you must shift from reactive tasks to planned, intentional actions. Most people live their entire lives in reactive mode. Email comes in, they respond. Phone rings, they answer. Problem arises, they handle it. They're constantly responding to external demands, never creating based on internal priorities. Wealthy people flip this. They decide in advance what matters. They plan their days, weeks, months around their priorities. They protect time for important work. They batch reactive tasks into designated times so those tasks don't control their entire day. They're proactive instead of reactive. Start simple. Every evening, plan the next day. Identify the 3 most important things you need to accomplish. Not the most urgent, the most important. The things that actually move you forward. Protect time for those 3 things. Do them first before checking email, before responding to requests, before getting pulled into reactive mode. This one shift from reactive to proactive, from responding to creating, can transform your productivity and your results. Because when you're reactive, you're living in everyone else's priorities. When you're proactive. Third, allocate daily time to think strategically, not just act. This is the discipline most people lack. They're always doing, never thinking. Always acting, never planning. Always busy, never strategic. And because they never think deeply about their situation, they never see the opportunities or the changes they need to make. Schedule 1 hour every week, minimum, for strategic thinking. No phone, no email, no distractions. Just you and a notebook. Ask yourself hard questions. Where am I headed? Is this where I want to go? What's working? What's not? What opportunities am I missing? What changes do I need to make? What am I avoiding? This thinking time is your most valuable hour of the week. It's where breakthroughs happen. It's where you see patterns. It's where strategy develops. But most people never create this space. They're too busy being busy. Fourth, identify ways to multiply results instead of simply adding hours. This is the leverage question. How can you get more output from the same or less input? Could you systematize something? Could you delegate it? Could you automate it? Could you eliminate it entirely? Could you do it differently to get 10 times the result? Most people, when they want more results, just work more hours. They add. But wealthy people multiply. They find force multipliers. They create leverage. Look at your work and ask, where is their leverage? Where could I multiply results? What could I build once that pays me repeatedly? What could I invest in that grows without my constant attention? This thinking is foreign to most people. They've been trained to trade time for money. But once you start thinking in terms of leverage and multiplication, everything changes. You start seeing opportunities everywhere. Fifth, create a simple financial or life plan that goes beyond survival. Most people have no plan beyond paying this month's bills. They're in survival mode. month to month, paycheck to paycheck, never investing, never planning for what could be. You need a plan, nothing complicated. Where do you want to be financially in 5 years? What would that require? How much would you need to save or invest monthly to get there? What skills would you need to develop? What steps would you need to take? Write it down. Make it concrete. Even a simple plan is infinitely better than no plan. And once you have a plan, every decision becomes easier. Does this move me toward my plan or away from it? Does this align with where I'm trying to go? You have a compass, a direction. You're no longer wandering. These 5 steps aren't complicated, but they're also not easy, because they require you to stop being busy long enough to think. They require you to admit what's not working. They require you to make changes. They require you to take responsibility for your outcomes instead of just blaming circumstances. But here's what happens when you implement these steps. You start seeing results that match your effort. You start building something instead of just surviving. You start creating value instead of just trading time. You start accumulating instead of just earning and spending. You start moving toward wealth instead of just working hard and staying broke. The truth is, you have a choice. You can continue doing what you've been doing, working hard, staying busy, hoping somehow it leads somewhere better. Or you can make a fundamental shift. You can start working with direction, with strategy, with leverage, with a plan. The effort might be the same. You might work just as hard. But the results will be completely different, because directed effort produces wealth. Undirected effort just produces exhaustion. So here's my question for you. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep playing the game that keeps you broke? Or are you going to change games? Are you going to keep trading time for money with no plan? Or are you going to start building leverage in assets? Are you going to keep being busy? Or are you going to start being productive? The choice is yours. But understand this, hard work is not enough. It never was. Directed effort, intelligent planning, disciplined thinking, that's what creates wealth. That's what separates those who build fortunes from those who just stay busy. In our next conversation, we're going to dive into something equally important, the specific financial principles that turn income into lasting wealth. How to think about money differently, how to invest, how to build assets, how to create streams of income that aren't tied to your personal time. All the tactical, practical strategies that take the principles we discussed today and turn them into concrete wealth. But all of that builds on what you learned here. That hard work alone changes nothing. That effort without direction leads nowhere. That you must think strategically, plan deliberately, and work with leverage if you want to build real wealth. Take these principles seriously. Implement the 5 steps. Start today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Assess your work. Plan intentionally. Think strategically. Find leverage. Create a plan. Because every day you spend working hard without direction is a day you'll never get back. Every year you spend being busy instead of productive is a year lost. The time to change is now. You're capable of so much more than just working hard and staying broke. You're capable of building wealth, of creating freedom, of designing a life that isn't just survival. But it requires you to work differently, to think differently, to plan differently. Make that shift now, and I'll see you next time when we go deeper into the financial strategies that turn these principles into real, measurable wealth.